30 years, it's been the money changers who made all the money, or the money people. Now you're going to have the situation shift from the paper people, the money people, to the people who produce real goods, and that includes farming. So all of us should marry a farmer or become a farmer, because that's what's going to. It's the farmers that are going to be the ones driving the Lamborghinis in the future, not the stockbrokers.
How can we, the people, invest in this concept which you just talked about? How can we invest in farming and food?
Well, become a farmer, teach your children to be a farmer, or you can invest in agricultural products. It's very easy to buy cotton if you want to. Many of these things trade on the stock exchanges as stocks, or you can buy futures commodity futures if you're really knowledgeable and know what you're doing, or if you buy the right stocks, you can buy. I mean, John Deere. I'm not suggesting one buy John Deere. I'm just using this as an example. But if I'm right, and that farming is going to become a very exciting industry for the next couple of decades, people like John Deere, or the people who make John Deere makes tractors, or the people who make fertilizer, these companies are all going to do extremely well.
I know that you've invested in, I believe, Brazil and Canada in agriculture. What do you think the role of genetically modified organisms are in all this whole agriculture thing?
Well, we've been doing genetically modified products for a long time. And you probably know that animal husbandry is in a business which has been around for a couple of 100 years, where they breed cattle or breed pigs or whatever to make better animals. So we've been having genetically modified food products for many years. Now they're doing it with plants, as you know. So far, the studies all show that genetically modified plants are better and they're more productive, etc. Unless somebody finds that that's wrong, then genetically modified products will continue to make inroads and may eventually make life better for all of us.
But they're really turning away from them in Europe, as you know. They don't. I
know. Well, that's largely because the European farmers are very, very, very protected. The agricultural industry there, even more than our farmers, are protected. And they've got a strong lobby, and they don't want anything new there. Again, most farmers are old men, and so they've done an extremely effective job of lobbying. But back to the point, I mean, they've had improved cotton seeds for decades now. People aren't complaining about improved cotton seeds or improved sheep for wool or anything, but this farming lobby in Europe, they're very powerful. But again, all I know is, Patrick, and I'm not a scientist, all I know is that the studies so far have all shown that genetically modified products are okay and are not harmful.
Well, there are a lot of people that are concerned about this, about the food itself from a health perspective, but that's a whole other show. We won't get into that, Jim Rogers. Let's take this call, 888-663-6386. Hi, where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Frankie in Livonia, Michigan.
Okay, you have to speak up. Can you hear him, Jim?
It's Frankie.
Hi, Jim.
Michigan. Good morning, Frankie.
Jim, I have a question for you about oil and where you see that market going generally, near and long term. And what do you think of the oil sands companies, juniors through majors in Canada, in Alberta?
Well, Frankie, it's very clear that the reserves of oil, the known reserves of oil, are in decline. The International Energy Agency recently came out with a study, and the world only has, 15, 20, 25 years of known oil reserves left. So unless something happens very quickly, the surprise is going to be how high the price of oil stays and how high it eventually goes. Now, in the oil sands in Alberta or in Canada, there are apparently gigantic reserves of oil. It's just very difficult to get to them. It's expensive. You have to mine it and then clean the oil out of the dirt. It's not in a pool like it is in Texas or some places. But it can be done. It is being done. It's expensive. It takes a lot of time. And the reserves are huge. So I actually own some shares of those companies up there. I have for a long time because they do have a great future. Unfortunately, it's not enough to solve our problems because even the wildest estimates are that the world will get another 1 million barrels a day of oil out of the oil sands in the next 5 years. Well, the world uses 85 million barrels a day of oil. So 1 million barrels will be great, and the people who own the oil sands are going to make a lot of money, but not going to solve our problem, which is one reason that I think that real assets are the place to be going forward, with supplies running down and governments printing money.
Do you think oil has bottomed from a intermediate or even longer term standpoint?
Well, Frankie, I'm the single worst market timer in the world's worst short-term trader. So I don't know. I do know that from a long-term perspective, the price of oil is going to be much higher over the years. But if something suddenly happens, if you have a couple of major surprise bankruptcies, everything will collapse again. But I have been buying raw materials, commodities recently, including oil. So who knows? You can ask in 5 years if I was right or not.
Okay. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Mr. Rogers, if someone wanted to invest in what you're investing in, you have a fund?
Well, I don't have a fund at all, so I don't have anything to sell here. But
okay.
I have an index, a commodity index, which people use, and like you can on the stock exchange, you can buy. It's RJI, for instance, which essentially is a basket of all commodities, or RJA, which is agricultural commodities, or RJN, which is energy commodities, or RJZ, which is metals. All the metal, a basket of metals commodities. So, yes, there are ways to do it, but I don't have a fund. Patrick, I'm not here to sell my funds. I'm here to sell books.
Sure. That's right. And the name of the book is A Gift to My Children. That's your latest book. And that can be found at Amazon.com?
It can be found in bookstores, or bookstores can order it, or you can buy it from Amazon, anywhere on the web. These days, as you know, there are many, many, many ways to buy books. It's just a short little book, and most people can read it in 2 or 3 hours. But I hope it's all the wisdom which I have distilled about life and investing over the past many decades.
A Gift to My Children. Here's an email from Daniel in Seattle. Can I please ask, when Mr. Rogers thinks that the social unrest, when was that going to happen? Very soon, or in the next few years? And should I just sell and move to Asia, or just to sit it out in Seattle?
Well, Daniel, we're already having social unrest in some European countries, and some countries, Latvia, toppled the government. Iceland, they toppled the government. A few countries it's already starting to happen, as people are very, very, very unhappy and angry about what's going on. When will it happen? I don't know. I would suspect that in the next 2 or 3 years you may see it in some American cities. How bad it will be, I don't know. I'm sure it depends on the city. Seattle may be less vulnerable than New York, for instance. Not picking on New York, because I love New York. That's where I lived for 30 or 40 years. But I'm afraid that some cities will be more vulnerable than others, and I think some will happen sooner rather than later. Again, it's always happened this way. I hope it doesn't sound strange what I'm saying, but it's just, if you go back and read your history, including American history, you will see that in times when times get worse and worse, you have social unrest.
He goes on to say that he's lost a lot of faith in the American banking industry with all the AIG, the Goldman Sachs, and the stories we're being told. So he wants to know, can you give him an idea of where he can look at investing his money for the long term?
Well, I too, Patrick, have lost a lot of unbelievable amount of confidence in the American financial system. It's more the American government that has let this happen, the Federal Reserve especially, the ones that have let this happen and caused this to happen by constantly bailing out their friends in the financial community. Every time somebody on Wall Street would get in trouble, the Federal Reserve would ride in and bail them out, which is outrageous as far as I'm concerned. It's outrageous economics. It's outrageous morality. I mean, politicians don't care about morality, of course, but it is terrible economics for all of us who are going to be left holding the bag. So I, too, have lost a lot of confidence in Washington and the central bank, the Federal Reserve. The best thing I know, the only thing I know right now is to put your money in real assets, the things that are going to survive no matter what happens. No matter what happens in the next 5, 10, 15 years, we're all still going to use wheat. We're still going to use cotton. We're still going to use oil, zinc, silver. So I'm putting my money in places like that. If one other alternative would be to put some of your money out of the U.S. in currencies which are sounder. Canada, for instance, somebody called about Canada before. Canada's a much sounder economy right now, much sounder currency than the U.S. dollar. You could also diversify by putting some of your assets in other countries.
Here's an email from Roger. He wants to know what your opinion of is moving to New Zealand and the New Zealand dollar and its long-term strength.